He laughed at me, mocked me, in front of his whole family and his boys like I was a joke he'd been rehearsing for weeks. But he didn't know who I really was and what I was capable of. Please stay with me as I tell you my story, and don't forget to support our channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing with your loved one. My name is Kayla Jackson. I'm 32, I live in Atlanta, and until that night, I thought I was in love. I thought I was building a life with someone who respected me. His name is Malik Thompson, charming on the outside, slick-talking, good teeth, tailored suits. One of those men who walks into a room and makes people straighten their backs. Everyone thinks they know Malik. They don't. It was supposed to be a celebration. Malik had just closed a multi-million-dollar real estate deal, and he invited me to a dinner party at his parents' house. All his friends were there, suits, cigars, expensive watches. The dining room smelled like money and ambition. I wore a navy dress that hugged my waist, nothing flashy, just classic. I even baked his mother's favorite peach cobbler, because I wanted her to like me. I wanted to fit into his world. Dinner was normal at first. Laughter, wine, small talk. Then, during dessert, someone made a comment about relationships. Malik leaned back in his chair, arm draped around mine, and said loud enough for the whole table to hear. Man, Kayla used to be wild back in the day. Had a whole rotation of dudes. She could write a damn manual on how to juggle 5 men and still make M feel special. Everyone laughed. Not a chuckle. Laughed. Even his mother covered her mouth and giggled. One of his boys slapped the table and shouted, "Damn Malik!" I froze. My throat tightened. My hand shook on my wine glass. I looked at him, searching for some kind of signal, that he was joking, that he regretted saying it, but he just smirked at me like I should be flattered. I didn't say a word. I excused myself, walked out with my head high, and drove home in silence. But I wasn't numb. I wasn't sad. I was focused. Focused on the things I knew. On what I helped him build. On what he forgot I still had access to. Malik thought he embarrassed me. No, he just gave me a reason. A reason to remind him who I really am. And now, he's going to learn the hard way what happens when you play games with someone who knows how to burn your whole empire down without breaking a sweat. The past he forgot I knew wasn't buried. It was boxed up, neatly, alphabetically, in a plastic container I kept in the back of my closet, next to my old vision boards and tax folders. I hadn't opened it in years, but after that dinner, I pulled it out like it was sacred. Every paper in there told a story, and Malik had forgotten I kept receipts. There were property deeds with my name co-signed. Marketing budgets I drafted. LLC formation paperwork I filed for him. Late nights on my old laptop while he snored beside me. I built the skeleton of his business when it was still just an idea over drinks. And in between the spreadsheets and contracts, I found things he probably thought were gone. The first was a bank statement, not ours, but a business account in his name only. I remembered the account. He swore it was for backup expenses. But the balance didn't lie. Tens of thousands ran through it monthly. I never saw a dime. Then I found the NDAs. Thick ones. Printed and signed by women I didn't know. And the messages. Text threads on a backup phone I hadn't used since 2020. He never changed the iCloud settings, so every disgusting little thing he thought he deleted was right there waiting. One thread caught my eye. Her name was Alicia. She was pregnant 5 months in from the look of the pictures they exchanged. She lived in Charlotte and had no idea Malik had a girlfriend, let alone one who basically helped build his career. She called him baby. He told her he was planning the nursery. I nearly dropped the phone. I didn't feel rage. Not in the way people expect. It was colder than that. Like ice water sliding through my veins. I didn't want to scream. I wanted to dismantle him piece by piece. And I wanted to start with her, but not to hurt her. To wake her up. So I created an email account, no real name. I wrote Alicia something simple. There's someone you need to meet. Bring your questions. I'll bring the answers. I signed it as part of a local women's empowerment group and invited her to a nail salon I used to frequent in Midtown, owned by a friend who owed me more than a few favors. I told Alicia it would be low-key, no pressure, just other women talking business and life. She agreed. She even sounded excited, said she hadn't connected with many women in Charlotte lately. I almost felt sorry for her, but this wasn't about pity. And it wasn't just about Malik anymore. It was about every woman he lied to. Every deal he closed by stepping on people like me. Every time he flashed a smile and buried the knife deeper. Alicia had no idea what was waiting for her, but soon neither would Malik. And this time, I wouldn't be the one walking out of the room in silence. The lie that funded his life started with a promise. Malik didn't have anything when we met. No portfolio, no credit, barely a car that started on the first try. But he had charm. He had vision. He sold me dreams I didn't know I wanted until I was already chasing them. I believed in him. Believed enough to cash out my 401k early, to take out a small personal loan under my name. It was supposed to be his first flip. A rundown duplex on the west side, nothing special. But to him, and to me back then, it was our future. He said, "Once this sells, I'm buying you a ring. Watch." The duplex sold. No ring ever came. But I kept the wire transfer receipts. I kept the email chains. I kept every document I'd signed, thinking I was building something solid. Now, with fresh eyes, I looked back at those documents and realized they weren't all the ones I'd signed. I guessed the password to his email on the second try. He used the same one for everything. It was almost insulting how easy it was. What I found hit harder than anything I'd expected. There were forged digital forms, tax filings with my electronic signature, loan applications listing me as a co-investor, a title transfer for a commercial property in Buckhead I'd never even seen, let alone signed for. He didn't just use my money. He used my identity. Fraud. On multiple levels. That's when I called Deshaun. Back in college, he used to tutor me in economics. Now he worked for the IRS in Atlanta's fraud division. We hadn't talked in years, but he remembered me. More importantly, he still owed me for covering his rent one summer when his internship money ran dry. We met at a quiet diner off Moreland Avenue. I laid everything out, documents, screenshots, timeline. I watched his face shift from surprise to concern to something darker. He said, "Kayla, this ain't small. You realize that, right?" I nodded. "I don't want sympathy. I want a trail. A clean one. Something no amount of money or lawyers can bury." He agreed to help. We started piecing it together. Wire transfers, property tax records, IP addresses on the digital signatures. Every click Malik thought disappeared was recorded somewhere. Every forged line tied back to him. It wasn't just one mistake. It was a pattern. He built his entire brand on documents with my name underneath, and he never thought anyone would look twice. But now someone was. And if he made even one wrong move, knocked on the wrong lender's door, or filed one more fake deduction, the feds would be next. The other woman was never just Alicia. I learned that fast once I stopped crying and started digging. Malik wasn't just sloppy with his deals. He was reckless with his secrets. And the deeper I went, the more I realized I wasn't the only woman who thought she was the only one. So I took a different route. I didn't go to the cops. Not yet. I went to the place that scared men like Malik more than handcuffs. Public opinion. There's a blog, local, messy, loud, called Atlanta Dirt. Half gossip, half whistleblower, all teeth. Real estate agents hated it. I knew because Malik used to rant about it every time they ran a post even remotely connected to his business. They had reach, and more importantly, they had readers who could sniff out fraud better than any audit team. So I became a source. I created a burner account, uploaded heavily redacted files, screen grabs, even audio clips of Malik bragging about deals he manipulated, tenants he displaced, under-the-table payments he took from sketchy developers. I didn't sign my name. I didn't need to. Within 48 hours, the editor-in-chief reached out, Naomi Simmons. She didn't ask who I was, only what I had. I gave her names, transaction numbers, property listing, voice memos of Malik mocking first-time homebuyers, laughing about flipping their desperation into profit. She was sharp, quiet, professional. She asked the right questions. She didn't judge. We agreed to meet at a bookstore cafe in Decatur. She recognized me instantly, but never said my name. Just nodded. She ordered tea and opened her notebook like a surgeon prepping for surgery. "I don't care about drama," she said. "I care about the truth. If this is personal, walk away now. If it's real, give me everything." So I gave her everything. Then 3 nights later, I got a text from a friend. "Girl, check Instagram." Now, I opened the app, not expecting much. What I saw made my stomach flip. Malik was live, at a rooftop bar, grinning like a politician, champagne in hand, surrounded by friends. And next to him, beaming, glowing, was Sierra, my cousin. He got on one knee. The ring sparkled like it had a PR team. The caption read, "She said yes, ring sparkles." My hands didn't shake. I didn't throw my phone. I just stared at the screen, watching the comments roll in. People cheering, laughing, clapping emojis. No one knew what I knew. No one saw what I saw. This wasn't a man proposing out of love. It was a man hiding, covering his tracks, building a shield of applause before the storm hit. And Sierra? She wasn't just another woman. She was blood. We grew up sharing secrets, dresses, Sunday dinners. She knew about Malik. Or at least I thought she did. But maybe that was the point. Maybe Malik chose her on purpose. To erase me completely. To replace me with someone familiar enough to sting but distant enough to control. That moment didn't break me. It sealed something inside me. Because now it wasn't just business. It wasn't just betrayal. It was war. The second dinner party didn't have wine glasses clinking or polite laughter. It had silence that pressed down like a ceiling about to cave in. This wasn't celebration. This was exposure. I chose the same caterer Malik used at his parents' house. Petty, maybe, but I wanted the night to echo. I I rented a sleek Airbnb in Buckhead with a long glass dining table and hired a private chef. Sent custom invitations, no explanation, just a note that said, "Let's end things right." Malik came first, dressed like he always was, confident, tailored, smiling like he'd already won. Behind him came Sierra, her diamond ring catching the chandelier light, her expression unreadable. Alicia showed up late, visibly nervous, but curious enough to sit down. Naomi arrived last, dressed casually, blending in like she belonged. No one questioned her presence. They assumed she was just another of my friends. We ate in near silence. I made small talk, asked about work, complimented the food. I watched them closely, Malik trying to read me, Sierra sipping wine like she was bracing herself, Alicia fiddling with her napkin. Then I stood. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a speech. I just picked up the remote and turned on the projector. The first video was a voice memo. Malik's voice filled the room, laughing clear as day. I never paid for that loan. Kayla covered the whole thing. She didn't even ask questions, just signed like a good girl. No one moved. The second clip showed him at a cigar lounge, seated with one of his boys, talking over drinks. A hidden camera caught every word. They always fall for it. Give them a business title and a couple compliments, and they think they're partnered. Kayla? Man, she's useful but clueless. The third video ended with him saying something I'll never forget. Alicia thinks she's the one. Sierra too. But women like that, they're just tools. Step ladders. Alicia shot up from her chair. Her hand went to her stomach. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "You lied to me." Then she turned and left. Sierra didn't cry. She didn't speak. She just pulled the ring off her finger and set it on the table. The sound of it hitting the glass was louder than any yelling could have been. Malik didn't say a word. His face drained, the smile wiped clean. His jaw clenched, but no defense came. Just silence. Exposed. Cornered. Drowning in his own voice. No one clapped. No one comforted him. He was alone, and I made sure he knew it. That night, he realized something. He had the wrong woman figured out. The next morning, before the sun was even up, Malik's empire began to crumble. It started with a call from his bank, the one he used to move the shady money under his company. Frozen. All accounts flagged. No transactions allowed until a full investigation cleared. He'd have seen the notice, skimmed the language, and known immediately someone had reported him. Someone knew where to look. That someone was Dashawn. He didn't waste time. The moment he filed the report, his department began the audit. They'd already traced irregular tax forms and mismatched property records. The red flags were everywhere. Shell companies tied to Malik, forged documents with my name, cash transfers that didn't match up with the declared income. All of it was unraveling, thread by thread. Then came Naomi's article. She'd warned me it would hit hard, and she didn't lie. The headline punched through every screen in Atlanta. The king of Atlanta's real estate, built on lies? It wasn't a hit piece. It was investigative journalism at its cleanest and sharpest. She laid out everything, evidence of manipulated deals, quotes from former clients, a timeline of Malik's rise alongside the questionable moves he made to get there. She used aliases for the women involved, but made it clear he used them like stepping stones. The story exploded. Property owners who once praised Malik started pulling out. Partners he'd wooed at conferences and charity galas vanished from his contact list. 2 potential investors posted statements saying they were reviewing affiliations and contracts, which is corporate speak for we're cutting ties before this gets worse. And through it all, my phone stayed silent. Because I blocked him. I blocked Malik on every number, every email, every platform. No chance to apologize, explain, threaten, or spin. Nothing. But he didn't stay quiet. A few hours after the article dropped, he posted a video on his personal page. Shot from his office, tie undone, face full of fake concern. His voice had that same polished tone he used at fundraisers. "I know there are a lot of rumors circulating right now," he said, "and I want to be very clear. I'm being targeted. This is a personal vendetta by bitter exes who are trying to ruin what I've built. I've always conducted my business with integrity." The comments section didn't buy it. Hundreds of people, clients, agents, strangers, flooded the post. "So all your exes forged your tax returns too? Funny how bitter women always come with receipts. Built on lies and broken promises. You're done." The video stayed up for less than an hour before he took it down. But the internet never forgets. Screenshots were everywhere. Group chats, blogs, real estate circles. Malik Thompson wasn't just exposed, he was toxic. And it was only the beginning. The lawsuit wasn't impulsive. It was calculated. Once the article dropped, once the accounts were frozen and the audits started rolling in, I knew I had leverage, but I wanted more than that. I wanted accountability. Malik didn't just steal money. He stole my identity, rewrote my history, used my name like a passcode to build his fraudulent kingdom. So I hired a lawyer. Her name was Camille Rogers. Sharp, Cold. Knew how to tear down men like Malik without raising her voice. I gave her everything: contracts, recordings, notarized letters, screenshots of altered tax forms, forged digital signatures. It was all meticulously organized. She didn't blink once while reading, just nodded and said, "This won't take long." We filed the suit: fraud, identity theft, emotional abuse, and breach of contract. The documents alone were enough to shake Malik, but the moment the court date was scheduled, he realized this wasn't just public shame. It was legal warfare. He showed up to the courthouse in another designer suit, still trying to wear the role of the untouchable businessman. Cameras lined the sidewalk. Reporters shouted questions. He ignored them, jaw clenched, eyes darting toward the entrance like it was a battlefield. Inside, the atmosphere was stark. No charm, no distractions, just truth. Camille opened strong. She laid out a digital presentation, time-stamped calls, email threads, even video of Malik bragging to his friends about finessing dumb women into signing for stuff. The court went silent at that one. The judge leaned forward, eyebrows raised. Then we brought out the texts, screenshots of him coaxing me into co-signing, promising marriage, a future, while simultaneously telling others I was just a convenient investor. We followed it with the legal filings that had my forged signature on, the handwriting analysis, the IP address confirmations. Every document was backed by a paper trail he couldn't refute. And then came Sierra. She sat down with her spine straight and her voice steady. She testified to everything: how he proposed to her while still talking to other women, how he manipulated their relationship, how she discovered files on his laptop showing ownership splits that didn't include her despite his promises. The judge listened closely. Malik kept his eyes down. When it came time for cross-examination, Malik tried to spin. Claimed I was bitter, jealous, vindictive. But he had no answers for the forged documents. No denial for the recordings. His voice, boasting, laughing, lying, was the loudest witness in the room. By the end of the second day, the ruling was swift. The judge froze every remaining asset in Malik's name and ordered him to pay damages, hundreds of thousands in restitution. His properties were seized pending investigation. His companies flagged for further scrutiny. As the ruling was read, Malik sat motionless. Then, without a word, he stood and stormed out of the courtroom. Cameras followed, flash after flash. No statement, no smirk. Just a man watching everything he built collapse under the weight of his own arrogance. Justice didn't come with applause. It came with quiet satisfaction, the kind that stays with you. Loyalty for Malik was always about leverage. He didn't build friendships, he built alliances. But once his empire started crumbling, so did the silence of the men who stood beside him. His so-called boys, the same ones who laughed at that dinner party, who toasted him at closing deals, who called him a king, started talking. First in whispers, then in interviews. One after another, they came forward with stories about shady contracts, about under-the-table payoffs, about clients misled and profits laundered. Malik didn't just burn bridges. He left fuel and a match in everyone's hand. It wasn't revenge. It was self-preservation, the kind that shows up when a sinking ship needs bodies to blame. One of his former business partners went on a local podcast, claiming he was kept in the dark about most of Malik's financial dealing. Another released text screenshots, messages where Malik confessed to manipulating loan terms and hiding income stream. Even the man who once called Malik his brother in the hustle told reporters he'd been used and misled. Meanwhile, I got a call. It was from a producer in LA, a woman named Carmen Holt. She'd read Naomi's article, followed the court case, and said my story had traction beyond headline. She wanted to develop a docuseries, something cinematic, raw, not tabloid noise. I listened. Then I said yes, but only if it didn't become a story about Malik. I wasn't interested in building his legacy through scandal. I wanted something else. I wanted the women heard, their voices, their stories, their pain, and how they rebuilt after his betrayal. Alicia, Sierra, the others he left behind or used along the way. Carmen agreed. We started pre-production within weeks. Naomi signed on as a consultant. Sierra agreed to appear. Even Alicia, after some hesitation, recorded a segment. What started as revenge shifted into something more important: clarity, truth, visibility. While we worked behind the scenes, Malik's public image disintegrated. He wasn't just infamous now, he was mocked. Memes, tweets, gossip sites. People quoted his court statements with laughing emojis. Real estate seminars that once featured him wiped his name from old flyers. Clients who used to seek his advice now used his name as a warning. In the same cigar lounges where he once bragged, his name drew eye rolls and laughter. He wasn't feared. He was forgotten. Or worse, remembered for all the wrong reasons. He found me on a Thursday. The empire he built on charm and deception tucked inside a sleek midtown building to ash run entirely by very people women he thought would carry his legacy. Developers, architects, legal consultants. I just watched the dust settle. The air smelled like ambition and lavender oil. I was consulting now, rebuilding my career on foundations I trusted. No shortcuts. No lies. Malik walked in without an appointment. No warning. Just appeared. I looked up, and for a second, I almost didn't recognize him. His suit was wrinkled, the expensive watch gone, beard unkempt, and his eyes, once sharp, looked drained. He didn't carry the swagger anymore. Only weight. "Kayla," he said, voice low. "Can we talk?" My assistant started to intervene, but I raised a hand. He stood there, awkward in a space that no longer made room for him. The silence stretched. He glanced around, taking in the modern furnishings, the framed contracts, the awards lining the shelf behind me. This wasn't his world anymore. "I messed up," he said finally. "I know you don't owe me anything, but I wanted you to hear it from me. I was wrong. About everything." I didn't respond. Just sat still, watching. He stepped closer. "I lost everything. My accounts, my partners, even Sierra left. I'm not asking for anything. I need you to know I've changed." He paused, as if expecting forgiveness to slide easily from my lips. When I stayed silent, his voice cracked. "Kayla, I can't eat. I can't sleep. I think about what I did every single day. Please." He cried. Not loud, not dramatic, just tears sliding down a man who had finally run out of masks to wear. Still, I didn't speak. Everything he said, every emotion on his face, I had already grieved it, already buried it. I wasn't angry. I wasn't even cold. I was done. I turned to my assistant, who stood by the door waiting. With a small nod, I signaled. She approached him gently, touched his elbow, and guided him toward the exit. He didn't fight, just looked back one last time, hoping for something. A word, a glance, a sign that I cared. But I didn't give him one. He left the office the same way he came, quiet, uninvited, irrelevant. And I never spoke to him again. I wasn't finished. I didn't fade. I didn't disappear. I rebuilt. The workshop wasn't for show. It was for women like me, Black women ready to own, invest, and protect what no one ever handed to us. I looked around that room and saw legacy being built, loud, proud, and unshakable. Alicia stood beside me, grounded. She didn't hold back. Her story wasn't just survival, it was instruction. We weren't there to be polite. We were there to take space. The docuseries dropped the next day. After that, nothing was the same. People didn't just watch, they felt it. The lies, the manipulation, the buried truth. I laid it all bare. And the silence that followed wasn't empty. It was respect. As for Malik, after that he was nowhere. Just a man behind a dusty desk at a no-name sales office, pushing discount offers to people who didn't recognize his face. No power. No spotlight. Just shadows. He thought I was weak, that I'd disappear. But I don't break. I rebuild.